Ingrid Bergman, Hollywood legend and winner of 3 Oscars. In this slideshow, we look at the life and background of one of the most influential and talented actresses in film history, Ingrid Bergman. We know how she became a Hollywood star, how she survived the scandal of her affair with Roberto Rossellini, and how she won 3 Oscars for her roles in different genres. We also look to her work in theater and television, her multilingualism and her advice on breast cancer. Ingrid Bergman with Oscar. Ingrid Bergman with an Oscar for her role in the film Gaslight in 1944. Childhood and education. Ingrid Bergman was born on August 29, 1915 in Stockholm, Sweden, the daughter of artist Justus Bergman and nanny Frida Arnheim. She was an only child and was named after Princess Ingrid of Sweden, who was her father's godmother. Ingrid Bergman lost her mother when she was 2 years old and her father when she was 13 years old. She was raised by her uncle Ott, who was the director of the Swedish theater. Ingrid Bergman showed an interest in acting from an early age. She loved watching movies, playing house plays, and imitating her favorite actors. She was also interested in music, dancing and singing. She spoke 5 languages: Swedish, German, English, French and Italian. Ingrid Bergman entered the Royal Dramatic Theatre in Stockholm in 1933, where she studied acting and stage speech. She made her film debut in 1934 in the Swedish film Måns Westland. She starred in several Swedish and German films, such as Swedenhilm, Wahlborgs Mässo Afton, 4 Matches, and others. She also played on stage in performances such as Romeo and Juliet, The Marriage of Figaro, Intermezzo, and others. Ingrid Bergman as a child. Ingrid Bergman in the film Måns Westland. Ingrid Bergman in the film Måns Westland in 1935. Moving to Hollywood and taking off in his career. Ingrid Bergman moved to the United States in 1939 to star in the American remake of Intermezzo, in which she played a violinist in love with a married pianist. The film brought her fame and recognition in Hollywood, as well as the friendship and support of producer David O. Selznick, who became her mentor and friend. Selznick helped her choose roles that highlighted her natural beauty, talent and charisma. Ingrid Bergman has become one of the most popular and sought-after actresses in Hollywood, starring in films such as Casablanca, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Obsession, Love and Death, The Ring of the Bells of St. Mary, and others. She has played in different genres, from romantic comedies to dramas and thrillers. She worked with such stars as Humphrey Bogart, Gary Cooper, Gregory Peck, Cary Grant and others. She collaborated with such directors as Alfred Hitchcock, Victor Fleming, Leo McCarey and others. Ingrid Bergman won her first Oscar for her role in the 1944 film Obsession, in which she played a wife whose husband tries to drive her crazy. She also played the role of Joan of Arc in film and on stage, for which she received many accolades and awards. She was one of the most respected and beloved actresses in Hollywood who was not afraid to take on risky and challenging roles. Poster for the film Intermezzo. Poster for the film Intermezzo. In 1939, Ingrid Bergman and Humphrey Bogart in the film Casablanca. Ingrid Bergman and Humphrey Bogart in the film Casablanca in 1942. Ingrid Bergman with an Oscar for her role in the film Obsession. Ingrid Bergman with an Oscar for her role in the film Obsession, in 1944. Scandal with Roberto Rossellini and expulsion from Hollywood. Ingrid Bergman fell in love with Italian director Roberto Rossellini when she saw his film Rome, Open City, and wrote him a letter proposing collaboration. She starred in his film Stromboli in 1950, in which she played a refugee who marries a fisherman on the island of Stromboli. During filming, she and Rossellini became romantically involved, although both were married. Ingrid Bergman left her husband, Drive, Petter Lindstrom, and her daughter, Pia, to live with Rossellini in Italy. She became pregnant by him before their official marriage, which caused a huge scandal in the United States. Ingrid Bergman became the object of condemnation and hatred from the public, the press, the church and politicians in the United States, who considered her immoral, depraved, and a traitor. Her films were banned from American cinemas and television for 7 years. She was even censured in the U.S. Senate, where Senator Edwin Johnson called her the evil that is corrupting our nation, and proposed a law banning her entry into the United States. Ingrid Bergman continued to act in Europe in Rossellini's films, such as Europe 51, Journey to Italy, Fear, and others. She also had 3 children with him, Robertino, Isabella, and Ingrid. However, their marriage was not happy and they divorced in 1957. Ingrid Bergman kept in touch with her daughter Pia, who lived in the United States with her father. She also tried to rebuild her reputation and career in Hollywood, which she did in 1956 when she won her second Oscar for her role in Anastasia. Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossellini. Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossellini in the 1950s poster for the film Stromboli. In 1950, Ingrid Bergman with an Oscar for her role in the film Anastasia. Ingrid Bergman with an Oscar for her role in the film Anastasia. In 19561, Italian Passions, The Immoral Romance of Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossellini. Return to Hollywood and new successes. Ingrid Bergman returned to Hollywood to star in the film Anastasia in 1956, in which she played the missing daughter of the last Russian Tsar. For this role she received her second Oscar, as well as the forgiveness and sympathy of the American public. She regained her reputation and popularity by starring in films such as Helen and the Men, Indiscretion, The Diary of Anne Frank, Dr. Zhivago, Murder on the Orient Express, and others. She played in different genres, from comedy to historical drama. She worked with such directors as Jean Renoir, Stanley Donen, George Stevens, David Lean, and others. Ingrid Bergman won her 3rd Oscar for her role in Murder on the Orient Express in 1974, in which she played a Swedish missionary who was one of the train murder suspects. It was her last Hollywood role, and she dedicated her award to her longtime friend and producer David O. Selznick, who died in 1965. She was one of the most respected and beloved actresses in Hollywood who was not afraid to take on challenges and change her image. Poster for the film Anastasia. In 1956, Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant in the film Indiscretion. Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant in the film Indiscretion. In 1958, Ingrid Bergman with an Oscar for her role in the film Murder on the Orient Express. Ingrid Bergman with an Oscar for her role in the film Murder on the Orient Express, in 1974. Work in theater and television. Ingrid Bergman combined her film career with work in theater and television, where she demonstrated her versatility and skill. She played in different genres and styles, from classics to modernity, from drama to comedy. She worked with directors such as Laurence Olivier, Ingmar Bergman, Sidney Lumet, and others who appreciated her talent and character. Ingrid Bergman has received 3 Emmy Awards and 1 Tony Award for her roles in television series and plays such as The Underwater Queen, The Captain's Daughter, Catherine the Great, Hedda Gabler, The Sea of Gulls, and others. She was also nominated for an Oscar for her performance in Ingmar Bergman's 1978 film Autumn Sonata, in which she played a mother trying to reconcile with her daughter, a pianist. She was a 9th-generation relative of Ingmar Bergman, and they collaborated on several projects. She was one of the first actresses to appear in color television, starting in 1957. Ingrid Bergman and Laurence Olivier in the play Hedda Gabler. Ingrid Bergman and Laurence Olivier in the play Hedda Gabler. In 1948, Ingrid Bergman and Ingmar Bergman on the set of the film Autumn Sonata. Ingrid Bergman and Ingmar Bergman on the set of the film Autumn Sonata. In 1978, Ingrid Bergman in the television series Catherine the Great. Ingrid Bergman in the television series Catherine the Great, in 1982. The fight against breast cancer and the last years of life. Ingrid Bergman struggled with breast cancer, which she was diagnosed with in 1974, after filming the film Murder on the Orient Express, 1. Despite the illness and treatment, she continued to work and act in films, television series and documentaries. She also performed on stage and read poetry. In 1982, she starred in her final film, Ingrid Bergman, My Story, in which she chronicled her life and career using her diaries, letters and photographs. The film was shot in London, Paris, Rome and on the island of Faro, where she lived in recent years. The film was shown on television after her death. Ingrid Bergman died on her 67th birthday, August 29, 1982, in London, from complications of cancer. Her body was transported to Sweden, where she was buried in the Norra Begravningsplatsen cemetery in Stockholm, next to her parents. Ingrid Bergman was one of the most respected and beloved actresses in the world. She received an honorary Oscar for her contributions to film in 1979. 5. She was posthumously inducted into the Hollywood Hall of Fame in 1999. She was named one of the most beautiful women in film history by People magazine. Ingrid Bergman in 1978. Ingrid Bergman in 1978. Ingrid Bergman on the set of the film Ingrid Bergman, My Story. Ingrid Bergman on the set of the film Ingrid Bergman, My Story. In 1982. Ingrid Bergman's grave in Stockholm. Ingrid Bergman's grave in Stockholm. Conclusion and sources. In this slideshow, we looked at the life and career of Ingrid Bergman, one of the most influential and talented actresses in film history. We learned how she became a Hollywood star, how she survived the scandal of her affair with Roberto Rossellini, and how she won 3 Oscars for her roles in different genres. We also looked at her work in theater and television, her multilingualism, and her battle with breast cancer. We hope this slideshow has allowed you to better understand and love this legendary actress who left an indelible mark on art and culture. To create this slideshow, we used the following sources: Bergman, Ingrid, Wikipedia. Italian Passions, The Immoral, novel of Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossellini. Ingrid Bergman, in her own words, is a 2015 documentary film in which Ingrid Bergman talks about her life and career. Ingrid Bergman, A Life in Pictures, a 2015 book containing photographs and letters of Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman, My Story, autobiography of Ingrid Bergman, published in 1980. Ingrid Bergman in the background of the slide.